Have you ever witnessed a moment so powerful that it completely changed how you see justice? What you're about to hear unfolded inside a Providence courtroom. And even Judge Frank Caprio, a man who has presided over hundreds of thousands of cases, struggled to hold back his emotions. Leave a comment if you believe some truths should never have to be hidden. That day, a teenage girl walked into the courtroom carrying a weight no child should ever have to bear. And when she finally found the courage to speak, the entire room fell into silence. Her name was Emma Rodriguez. She was just 17 years old, barely 5'3", standing alone in worn Converse sneakers and a faded Target jacket that had seen better days. If you believe teenagers deserve more compassion than they're often given, hit that subscribe button. Emma clutched a single parking ticket in her shaking hands. On paper, it was a minor violation. In reality, it represented everything she was struggling to survive. Like this video if you've ever felt completely alone in a room full of people. Because that's exactly how Emma looked as she stepped forward to face Judge Caprio on a cold February morning. The Providence Municipal Court was packed. Case number PM 2847-2024 appeared routine on the docket. A 17-year-old cited for parking in a handicap space without a permit at Rhode Island Hospital on January 15th at 2:47 p.m. The fine was $350. For most people, it was an inconvenience. For Emma Rodriguez, it felt impossible. Share this video with someone who needs the reminder that everyone you meet is fighting a battle you can't see. Judge Frank Caprio adjusted his glasses and studied the young woman before him. At 77 years old, with nearly 400,000 cases behind him, he had seen arrogance, desperation, and everything in between. But something about Emma stopped him immediately. The way she stood, shoulders hunched, as if trying to make herself invisible. "Good morning, young lady," Judge Caprio said gently, his familiar Italian-American warmth filling the courtroom. "I see you're contesting a parking violation. Can you tell me what happened that day?" Emma opened her mouth, but no words came out. Her hazel eyes, already red from crying, welled with fresh tears. She stared at her scuffed sneakers, then the courtroom floor, anywhere but the judge's kind face. Behind her, nearly 30 people waited for their own cases, and she could feel every pair of eyes on her. "Take your time," Judge Caprio said softly. "There's no rush. Nobody here is going to hurt you." Court Officer Michael Chun, who had worked that courtroom for 8 years, noticed Emma's hands shaking so badly that the ticket fluttered like a leaf in the wind. He had seen nervous defendants before, but this was different. This was trauma. Drop a comment if you've ever had to be brave at your weakest moment. Finally, Emma found her voice, barely above a whisper. "I know I wasn't supposed to park there, Your Honor. I know it was wrong. I didn't know what else to do." Judge Caprio leaned forward, his tone shifting from judge to grandfather. "Why don't you start from the beginning?" he said gently. "What brought you to Rhode Island Hospital that day?" Emma took a breath. "I was visiting my little brother," Emma said, her voice breaking on the word brother. "His name is Dylan. He's 8 years old." Judge Caprio nodded gently. "Go on." "Dylan has acute lymphoblastic leukemia," Emma continued. The words landed in the courtroom like stones dropped into still water. "He was diagnosed 14 months ago, and that day, January 15th, he was going through his 9th round of chemotherapy. If you believe children should never have to endure this kind of suffering, hit that subscribe button." Judge Caprio's expression changed, just slightly, but unmistakably. Those who knew him recognized the look immediately. It was the moment when a case stopped being about paperwork and started becoming something far deeper. "I'm very sorry to hear about your brother," the judge said softly. "That must be incredibly difficult for your family." "It's just us," Emma replied, and somehow those 3 words carried the weight of an entire lifetime. "Just me and Dylan. Our mom died from breast cancer 3 years ago." She paused, struggling to breathe. "Our dad," Emma swallowed hard. "He couldn't handle losing her. He started drinking, then using. He would disappear for days, sometimes weeks. Child Protective Services got involved about 6 months after Mom passed." The courtroom was completely silent. Even Patricia DeMauro, Judge Caprio's longtime clerk, who had typed through tens of thousands of cases without flinching, had stopped moving her fingers across the keyboard. Dylan and I were placed with our grandmother, Emma continued. Rosa Rodriguez. She took us in and gave us everything she had. But then Dylan got sick. Emma steadied herself. Grandma Rosa is 71 years old. She works 2 jobs just to keep us afloat, cleaning office buildings at night and working at a laundromat during the day. And even then, the medical bills never stop. Like this video, if you believe healthcare should never push families to the breaking point. On January 15th, Emma said, her voice trembling but determined, Dylan had a severe reaction to his treatment. They rushed him into the ICU. I got the call while I was at work. I work at McDonald's after school, she explained. 3 to 10, Monday through Friday. I'm a junior at Central High School. Judge Caprio looked down at his notes. So you're working 35 hours a week while attending school? Yes, Your Honor, Emma answered quietly. We need the money. Grandma's jobs cover rent and food, but there's always something else. Co-pays, medications insurance won't approve, gas for the hospital. She took a breath. Dylan has been admitted to Rhode Island Hospital 17 times in the past 14 months. Share this with someone who's working multiple jobs just to survive, and needs to know they're not alone. When I got the call that Dylan was in the ICU, Emma said, tears streaming freely now, I panicked. I left work immediately. My manager, Carlos, he understood. He told me to go. He said family comes first. She wiped her face with the sleeve of her jacket. I drove straight to the hospital. To the hospital in my grandmother's 2007 Honda Civic, Emma continued. The check engine light has been on for 6 months, but we can't afford to fix it. Judge Frank Caprio's expression transformed completely. The firm authority of the bench dissolved, replaced by unfiltered empathy. His eyes began to glisten. When I got to the hospital, it was rush hour, Emma said. Every parking space was taken. I drove around for 20 minutes, and every minute felt like an hour. I knew Dylan was scared. I knew he was asking for me. Her voice trembled. The nurse told me he kept crying my name. He's 8 years old, Your Honor. He's been stuck with more needles than some people face in their entire lives. He was terrified, and all he wanted was his sister. Emma's voice collapsed. She covered her face with both hands as her shoulders shook with sobs. Court Officer Michael Chen instinctively took a step forward, then stopped, unsure whether stepping in would break protocol. Drop a comment if you believe love is the strongest force in the universe. Judge Caprio didn't interrupt her. He didn't tell her to compose herself. He didn't rush the moment. He simply waited, swallowing hard, fighting his own emotion. Behind Emma, the courtroom was breaking too. A woman in her 50s gripped her husband's hand. A young man wiped tears from his eyes with his sleeve. After what felt like an eternity, though it was barely 45 seconds, Emma lowered her hands and continued. I couldn't find a spot anywhere, she said softly. Regular parking was full. Emergency parking was full. The garage had a 30-minute wait. And all I could think about was Dylan, alone and scared. She took a breath. So I pulled into a handicap space near the main entrance. I knew it was wrong. I knew I could get a ticket. But I told myself I'd run in for just a minute, let him see me, then move the car. Judge Caprio leaned forward. But that's not what happened, he said gently, not as a question. No, Your Honor, Emma whispered. When I got to Dylan's ICU room, he was having a seizure. He'd never had one before. There were 6 medical staff around his bed. Alarms were going off. I could see his little body convulsing, and I just couldn't move, couldn't breathe. I thought I was going to lose him right there. Hit subscribe if you've ever felt completely helpless in the face of something terrifying. The seizure was caused by the chemotherapy, Emma explained, her words spilling faster now, as if a dam had burst. It's a rare side effect, but it happens. They got it under control after about 4 minutes, but it felt like hours. She swallowed. Then they ran more tests, changed his medications, monitored him constantly. I sat by his bed, holding his hand. He was so weak he could barely open his eyes, but he kept squeezing my hand, and I promised him I wouldn't leave. Judge Caprio nodded slowly. How long were you there? 7 hours, Emma said. I completely forgot about the car, Emma said softly. I forgot about everything, except making sure Dylan was okay. She took a shaky breath. When I finally left at 10:30 that night, after Dylan had stabilized and fallen asleep, I found the ticket on my windshield. $350. She let out a quiet, bitter laugh. Not humor, something fractured. I stood there under those orange parking lot lights, staring at that ticket, and I started laughing because it was so absurd. My 8-year-old brother has cancer. My grandmother works 80 hours a week and still can't make ends meet. I work every hour I'm not in school. We're drowning in medical debt. And now I have a $350 parking ticket that I have absolutely no way to pay. Like this video, if you believe life sometimes piles on when you're already at your lowest. I make $9.75 an hour at McDonald's, Emma continued. After taxes, that's about $8.20. That ticket equals 42 hours of work. More than a full week of my life. Her voice faltered. And Your Honor, I don't know how I'm supposed to work more. Every hour I'm not at school or at work, I need to be with Dylan or helping my grandmother at home. Judge Frank Caprio removed his glasses and rubbed his eyes. When he looked back at Emma, his face was raw with emotion. Young lady, he said gently, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be honest with me. Where is your grandmother today? Why didn't she come with you to court? Emma's face crumpled. She doesn't know I'm here. She doesn't know about the ticket, she said quietly. If I told her, she'd insist on paying it. And Your Honor, she can't. She swallowed hard. Last month, she had to choose between buying her blood pressure medication and buying Dylan the nutrition shakes his doctor recommended. She chose the shakes. She hasn't taken her medication in 5 weeks. The words hung in the air, an indictment of every systemic failure that led to this moment. Court Officer Michael Chun turned away briefly, his jaw clenched. Patricia DeMauro wiped tears openly from her cheeks. Several people in the gallery gasped. Drop a comment if you know someone who sacrifices everything for their family. I took a personal day from school to be here, Emma continued. I told my guidance counselor, Mrs. Patterson, that I had a doctor's appointment. I couldn't tell her the truth. She already worries about me. She looked down. She keeps encouraging me to apply for college scholarships. But Your Honor, I can't think about college right now. I can barely think about next year. Some days I can barely think about tomorrow. What are your grades like? Judge Caprio asked, his voice thick with emotion. I have a 3.7 GPA, Emma said with a small shrug, as if it meant nothing. I'm in 3 AP classes. I was on the honor roll before Dylan got sick. Now I'm just trying to keep up. She paused. Mrs. Patterson says I might qualify for a full scholarship to Rhode Island College, maybe even Brown. But how do you write essays about your future when you don't know if your little brother has one? Share this with anyone who needs to understand that academic success doesn't happen in a vacuum. Judge Caprio stood up from the bench, something he almost never did. He walked around to the front, removing the physical barrier between himself and Emma. At 77, his movements were careful, deliberate, but his eyes burned with conviction. Emma, he said, using her first name, causing the gallery to stir. I want you to listen to me very carefully. Are you listening? Yes, Your Honor, she whispered. You are not a criminal, Judge Caprio said firmly. You are not irresponsible. You are not careless. And you are not any of the things that officer might have assumed when he wrote that ticket. He paused. You are a hero. Emma's face shifted. Shock, disbelief, and then something fragile and unfamiliar. Hope. You are 17 years old, Judge Caprio continued, his voice trembling. And you are carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. You work 35 hours a week. You maintain a 3.7 GPA. And you show up every single day for a little boy fighting for his life. His voice broke. You are the reason your brother squeezes your hand. You are the reason he can be brave. You are the reason he keeps going. Hit subscribe if you believe heroes don't always wear capes. The courtroom was so silent you could hear the heating system humming in the walls. When Judge Caprio spoke again, tears were streaming down his weathered face. My father came to this country from Italy with nothing, he said slowly. He didn't speak English. He worked construction, broke his back building this city. He used to tell me that the measure of a society is how it treats its most vulnerable. He looked at Emma. You are vulnerable. Dylan is vulnerable. Your grandmother is vulnerable. And this system, this parking ticket, this $350 fine is failing you. He turned to his clerk. Patricia, dismiss this ticket entirely. Void it. I don't want Miss Rodriguez to pay a single penny. Emma gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Your Honor, I'm not finished, Judge Caprio said gently, raising his hand. Officer Chun, he continued, please bring me the donation box. Like this video if you believe compassion still has the power to change lives. Officer Michael Chun moved quickly, retrieving the clear acrylic donation box from the side of the courtroom. The same box filled with quiet acts of kindness, left behind by people whose lives had already been changed. Officer Michael Chun placed the box gently on the judge's desk. This box, Judge Frank Caprio explained to Emma, contains donations from people who've stood right where you're standing, people who wanted to pay forward the kindness they received in this courtroom. He looked her in the eye. I want you to have it. All of it. Your Honor, I can't, Emma began. Judge Caprio shook his head firmly. Yes, you can. And you will. Then he added quietly, but that still isn't enough. He turned toward his clerk. Patricia, how much is in the box right now? Patricia DeMauro had already counted it during the testimony. $473.18, Your Honor. Judge Caprio nodded. Emma, that money is yours, he said. Use it for gas to get to the hospital. Use it for food. Use it for anything you, Dylan, and your grandmother need. He paused. But I'm going to do something else. The judge turned to face the entire courtroom. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, his voice steady but charged with emotion. You've all heard Emma's story. You've heard about an 8-year-old boy fighting cancer. You've heard about a 17-year-old girl working herself to exhaustion to keep her family together. You've heard about a 71-year-old grandmother choosing between medication and food. He swept the room with his gaze. This is happening right here in Providence. To our neighbors. In our community. Drop a comment sharing one thing you're grateful for today, because perspective matters. Judge Caprio's voice grew stronger. I'm going to give each of you a choice. When your case is called today, if I rule in your favor, if I reduce your fine or dismiss your ticket, I'll ask you to consider making a donation to help Emma's family. He raised a hand. It is completely voluntary. No one will be judged for saying no. But if you can spare even $5, even $2, it will make a difference. For a moment, the room was still. Then applause erupted. It started with one person in the back row, then spread like wildfire. Within seconds, the entire courtroom was on its feet, clapping. Emma stood frozen, tears streaming down her face, struggling to understand what was happening. A man in his 40s rose from the third row. Your Honor, he said, I don't have a case today. I'm here supporting my wife for a speeding ticket, but I want to donate right now. He stepped forward and placed two $20 bills into Patricia's hand. I have a daughter Emma's age, he said. This could be her. This could be any of us. His wife followed, adding another 20. Then a woman in scrubs, clearly on a break from a nursing shift, walked forward with $10. Then another person, and another. Within 5 minutes, 17 people had donated. Patricia was scrambling to keep count. Share this video if you believe communities are strongest when we lift each other up. Emma was sobbing openly now, but these were different tears. Not tears of fear, not exhaustion, not despair. These were tears of relief, of gratitude, of finally feeling seen, valued, and supported, perhaps for the first time in years. Judge Caprio stepped closer and placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Young lady," he said softly, "I want you to promise me something." He paused. "Will you?"